Hey, what's good, fam? TC here. Check this out. Since probably the late 80s, early 90s, I've been following the goings on at the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. Um, Back in the day, I remember when they was trying to get Clarence Thomas, monkey ass, on the goddamn Supreme Court. He was having a bunch of trouble because he was fucking with Anita Hill. I don't know how many of y'all old enough to remember that, but he was fucking with Anita Hill. I guess she was a clerk in his law office, in his office or something. Anyway, he used to say all kind of nasty shit to her because, he was married to a white woman then, just like he is now. And when a nigga married to a white woman, he spent a lot of his free time trying to get black pussy. Just like when a nigga married to a black woman, a lot of times they spend time trying to get white pussy. People wanting what they think they can't have. But I digress. Anyway, this motherfucker was trying to get on the Supreme Court back then. And he's still on that. He got on like, he was under a conservative fucking leadership. And who the fuck was president? Maybe one of the Bushes or somebody was president back then. But I've been following the Supreme Court ever since then. And my thing with us black folks is, us regular down-to-earth black folks, is we don't pay enough attention to what's happening at the Supreme Court. We don't pay enough attention to the rulings that these motherfuckers come down with. The ruling that got me a little bit vexed right now, well, actually the last two, or two of the last three, but the last two that got me vexed right now is this ruling where came down on the side of corporations and telling people in the public sector that they don't have to join a union. They're not required to pay union dues if they don't want to join a union. Yet the union still has to represent them in collective bargaining. Now, seeing as how most of us make less than $30,000 a year, that's a very important ruling because it makes the whole public sector more or less right to work. And if you know anything about how right to work works, it's really right to fire. Because when you filling out the application, it says so right in the paperwork that they can fire you for any reason or no reason. Any reason or no reason. Like a motherfucker come to work, he had a bad day on the way to work, and he's the first person he sees is your black ass, and he just decide he don't like you, he send you home, you fired, get the fuck out. Any reason or no reason. Well, why you firing me? No reason. It says so right there in your contract. I don't need a reason. Get the fuck out. Now, I've worked for some union shops before. Actually, I've worked for some non-union shops before. For long periods of time. I worked 20 years for a non-union shop. Motherfucking union tried to come up in there too. And then I worked for 15 years for another non-union shop. But back then you could work for a union shop and be all right. Because the non-union shop gave you just as good a package as the union shops did because they didn't want a union coming up in there. So they had to pay their people competitive wages. They had to give their people competitive benefits. And they did. Not because they gave a fuck, mind you. It was so they didn't have to deal with a union coming in there trying to organize the workers. Fast forward to 2018, where everybody's getting fucked over. The rulings are coming down in favor of the companies where you ain't got to join their union. They're trying to break unions up and they are reserving the right to pay you less money. They don't give a fuck about you like that no more. It's a buyer's market, as it were. The companies got more workers than they need, you see. So everything is becoming right to work, which, like I said, is right to fire. And that's the ruling that the Supreme Court came down in favor of. That was kind of fucked up. People need to pay attention to that goddamn Supreme Court. It's always going to be a 5-4 decision on the side of the conservatives, because when Barack Obama was president and he was trying to get his judge on the Supreme Court, the Republican Senate and the Republican Congress wouldn't even talk to the motherfucker. Now, if I was Barack Obama and I was president, I would have put up a black woman. Now, they still wouldn't have talked to her, but it would have made them look like total fucking bigots and racists, like what they really are, for not even interviewing the woman. And would have shamed their ass out. But Barack Obama, that brother wasn't never really on our side anyway. But that's what I would have done. Knowing that she wouldn't have got on, but I would have put her up anyway, just to make them look like just a parting kick in the balls to them motherfuckers for fucking me over all that time. But Barack Obama, he wasn't really no real black man like me anyway. So I guess he didn't think along them lines. And I'm sure somebody suggested it to him. But he didn't do that. But anyway, that ruling came down because Donald Trump was able to get his man on the Supreme Court and tilt that fucking court to the right. And the next ruling that came down, and that's real shitty, is this fucking travel ban. You know, a couple of federal judges, I think one was in Hawaii and everything, they put a freeze on that shit and said it was unconstitutional. So in the Supreme Court, they ruled in favor of Donald Trump's travel ban, and now it can be in full effect. So motherfuckers coming from certain Muslim countries, them same countries that we want to destroy and go to war with, they can't come here. That is some goddamn bigotry and religious hatred if I ever seen in my life. All that shit is supposed to be coming off of 9/11, which was a bullshit inside fucking job, if you ask me. So Muslims getting paid, and keep in mind, I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Christian, and I'm not a Muslim. But the Muslims is getting blamed and killed and murdered and slaughtered and called terrorists and everything for some shit they really didn't fucking do. But I digress. Everybody believes they did it. Everybody believes they did it because the powers that be keep pumping it into their head, and you keep telling that lie often enough and repeating it enough until in the minds of most people it becomes true. But the Muslim ban was upheld by the Supreme Court. So there's two really shitty rulings that come down, and there'll be more. Oh yeah, and then there's the you ain't got to bake a cake for people if it violates your religious principles or some shit like that. That ruling came down in favor of the conservatives too. You're going to get a lot of that shit for the next couple of years. I think a couple of them Supreme Court justices are, getting a little old. Old man Clarence Thomas got to be fucking 80 or better. The Ginsburg woman is 150. Anyway, the point is Donald Trump going to get a chance to put more Supreme Court justices up. And unless we can change the way the Congress is configured, he'll get his judges on. And that motherfucker will be even more to the right. And you're going to have a complete motherfucking fascist state that you can't do nothing about. You're almost there now. People got to pay attention to what goes on in all three branches of government. All three. And you got to vote for people who have your fucking interests at heart. Yours. Not minority. Not lesbians and humpbacks like Dr. Claude Anderson said. Lesbians and humpbacks and Hispanics and everything. Black people. These two rulings affect black people the most because the people that are involved or affected by that travel ban, a lot of them are black. They're coming from predominantly black countries. And he can add to that list anytime he wants to. And that ruling about unions and not having to join a union and making public sector jobs right to work, that affects black people a lot, because a lot of us work for school districts and things of that nature that are public sector jobs, that are unionized. But people don't see the benefit of having a union behind them. All they think that the union's doing is taking a little bit of money and not really representing them. Well, goddamn it, the union is representing you. It really is. Just think about how shitty it would be if you didn't have a union. Because that right to work, right to fire shit ain't no joke. Like I said earlier, motherfucker come to work after having been arguing with his wife all night, looking at you. He don't like niggas to begin with. He looking at you out of one eye. All of a sudden, he come up with a reason to fire you. Send you home for no reason. Any reason or no reason. That's what it says. Right to work does not mean right to work in favor of the employee. It means right to fire in favor of the employer. Right to work for less. Right to pay you less than minimum fucking wage. So you got to have at least, right as it is with minimum wage, $7.25. You got to have at least 2 jobs just to pay rent in any city in America, just to make the fucking rent on a 2-bedroom apartment. You got to at least have 2 of them fucking jobs. And now you can't can't unionize, and if you do unionize, they can destroy your union by telling half the people they don't have to join. We're in for some shitty times, boy. I tell you, they will fuck this whole goddamn country up. Let them white boys get in charge, and they will fuck the whole goddamn country up. This is what has happened in the era of Trump, and we're only 2 years in. Boy, I'm just, my only hope is that they don't fuck with Social Security and Medicare too much, because they're gonna fuck with it, but not too much. Because I'm a little prejudiced because, I'm getting ready to retire. But the people that's coming up, the young people that's coming up, and I tell them this all the time, y'all gotta fucking fix this shit. Y'all gotta fix this shit. Anyway, that's it for now. The piece behind me is Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton, 2 members of the Black Panther Party. Them were some righteous brothers. I love the Black Panthers. Before they got infiltrated. You got to remember, before they got fucking infiltrated. But I just got a question before I go. How come the Black Panthers got eliminated and wiped out, but the Ku Klux Klan is still around? That shit is by design, that's why. That's a charcoal piece I did. I used that for an exhibition piece. I think I got a bio for it this afternoon. Dude's supposed to be coming over and looking at some of my black pieces. But we'll see how that goes. Check this out, though. Comment, subscribe, give me that hit me with that thumbs up, and hit that bell notification. And I'll see y'all on the next go round. All right, TC, and I'm out.